Okay, YouTube, King Heathen. This will be my last full video for the night. Might do a few look around, see what's going on, do a couple of responses, and then probably go to bed. But this is an interesting one for you, and I hope you get a kick out of it. If any Christians or theists are watching this, I want you to see how absolutely ridiculous some of you can be in trying to prove your God. I'm sitting at work discussing matters of science with one of my more intelligent co-workers when one of my lesser intelligent co-workers comes up and decides that he wants to join in the debate. We get to talking about evolution and the idea that there was no God and all that, because everyone at work knows that I'm an atheist, and I got to say, for living down here in the Bible Belt, I have not personally experienced any direct lashing from anybody, but because of my atheism. However, they kind of already knew who I was, and I'd already gained respect before they found out. So it was kind of one of those things that they were already stuck with me. So, well, I guess he's all right. But anyway, so this guy decides he wants to chime in on the subject. I'm not sure why he picked then, but he did. And he said, "I think anyone who doesn't believe in a creator, well, that's just stupid." So you can imagine me. I paused and I went, "Well, that's great. Unfortunately, I see the exact opposite as true." This is what he came up with. He said, "Surely there was a creator, because the sun and the moon are in the exact right places to be the equal size whenever an eclipse happens." They are. Now, let me give you some background on this guy. This guy actually is into astronomy. As a matter of fact, he just spent several $100s on a very high-powered set of binoculars and a ridiculous amount of money for a very, very, very high-powered telescope in order to look at the stars. I tried to explain to the guy that the sun and the moon are not the exact same size all the time. Sometimes it's an illusion, sometimes they may be smaller, sometimes it's bigger. It just varies. He said that's not true, because every time there's a total eclipse, there's that little ring that goes around. That's for matching up with the perfect size. To which I said, it doesn't matter how big the moon was. It could be a little bit smaller. It could be a lot smaller. You're still going to get a ring around it if the sun's behind it. If for no other reason than that the light would bend around the circular or the spherical moon and bend around the edges to give you some of those little fringy lights that are on there. However, that's just not the entire picture. But this guy was convinced. He went on about his business. He was in the middle of something anyway, to which I was just absolutely astounded. Well, I thought that conversation was pretty much over with. Then all of a sudden, one day, I guess he got irritated at me for some other reason, and he decided to come back at me with it. "Oh, by the way, you were wrong about the moon." And this was 2 months later, and I'm baffled that he even tried to come back at it. And I just looked at him and said, "No, I wasn't." He said, "Yeah, you were." And I said, "No, I wasn't. He wanted to bet." To which I paused and went, "You know what? I don't want your money." "Oh, because you can't prove it." "No, I can prove it. I just don't want your money." He insisted to bet me $1,000. And I said, "No, because you wouldn't pay up, because as soon as I proved it, you would just deny my proof. But my proof would be true." Anyway, I basically just told him to shut up and go away. Went home that night, printed off something from that I found on a couple of different, went to 3 different sites to make sure I had everything that backed it up. Got me a few pictures, and I was going to throw this in this guy's face and just absolutely shut him up forever. And then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to waste my energy on the guy. But it was an interesting enough story, and I thought I'd share it with you because it's very, very interesting. I mean, this guy's absolutely convinced that the sun and the moon line up perfectly. Now, if you go and you look up some pictures of solar eclipses, you may see what he's talking about. But what they're doing is they are narrowing down the pictures they have to get the look that they want. If you go and you look it up, and this is of the three that I found, the Wikipedia explanation is actually one of the best that I found in the way that it breaks it down so that you understand exactly what's going on. But if you want to give the very, very quick shutting this guy up, and I don't know that anybody else ever used this this analogy to prove God, but he did. And if you ever have someone, this is how you shut them up. The moon is on an elliptical orbit. That means sometimes it's closer to the Earth, and sometimes it's further away by a very great distance to us, which makes a very small difference in the moon. Therefore, sometimes the moon is much smaller than the sun in the case of a total eclipse. Sometimes it's larger than the sun in a total eclipse. But most of the time, it just doesn't line up, and they're not, they don't make a total eclipse, and it is just a partial eclipse. Now, besides the total eclipse and the partial eclipse, there are two other types of eclipses. The one that shuts this guy up completely and totally, in case he hasn't already, is going to be the annular eclipse. All right, this occurs when, and I'm reading off of Wikipedia now. This occurs when the sun and moon are exactly in line, but the apparent size of the moon is smaller than that of the sun. Hence, the sun appears to be a bright ring or annulus surrounding the outline of the moon. So there you have it. It's not the same size. In fact, it's much smaller in that case. And because of the way it works, and keep in mind, the Earth is also on an elliptical orbit, which means that the Earth will be closer and further away from the sun. So you got all these things kind of going together, and you're just hoping that moon's going to cross over in front. And don't forget that you also have to be in the right spot at the right time, because whereas it may be a total eclipse for me, you might only get a partial eclipse. So the idea that the moon is in the perfect size to block it out doesn't even fit, because, as according to this, and I'll scroll down and find this bad boy, only the majority of central eclipses are annular, about 60% according to this site. So not only is the moon not big enough to cover the sun in its perfect size, but the majority of the time it doesn't do it. Only 40% of the time is it the same size or bigger. Anyway, check it out. You can go to wikipedia.org and just look up solar eclipse. It's http://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/S on solar_ and then eclipse, if you want to go directly to the site, or just, like I said, just look it up. But it's very fantastic that the evidence there, and it has a lot of great pictures of eclipses, and you can see all the variations that prove this guy wrong. But like I said, I just thought you guys might be interested to hear what one absolutely ridiculous theist tried to use to prove his God exists, and he's wrong. Alright, well, good night if you're looking at it now, or good morning if you're getting it in the morning. You guys take care, King Heathen. I will be back later with a few more of my outlooks on the world. Thanks.